Hello.
Welcome
to the Twin Tails
Studios.
Or Twin Tails. It's Twin Tail
Studios podcast, episode 17. This is our first episode in the thick of the Gamefound campaign for the Malice of Light Adventures, for those who may not be familiar.
Which, can they see here? I don't know if the video is showing it, but we have a video version of our podcast as well. So if you if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can follow us along. You can see us do hand motions and point to products because we have a demo. Careful, the painted minis are in there.
Why would you not tell me that ahead of time?
I did you, but when I hand it to you, go downstairs. Be careful.
So
painted minis are there.
Painted miniatures in there.
Welcome. Yes.
So
thanks for joining us. It's been a hectic week this last week.
Yeah, it's been a while. We haven't been a part of a crowdfunding campaign since, like, I don't know when it was, 2020 or something, 2021. I don't know. It's been a while, and it is a little different when we're running things ourselves. We already learned quite a few things. We also kind of want to take this episode, or take the opportunity during this episode to kind of give some context about some of our decisions on the campaign and, things we've learned. Like, obviously we're not experts or whatever on running crowdfunding. Everybody's learning new things all the time, and yeah. So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Let's kick things off with some updates, though, because this is launching on day 8 of the camp, or day 7. I forgot because it's been last week.
It'll be a week, yeah.
So this will be dropping on day 7, which will have 7 reveals. A little recap. We've had
some minion miniatures, which we're super excited about.
Both goblins, the green neck archer and the ash hand fighter. We had Annika Lawson, our first new hero, added to the game. So now you got 5 heroes to choose from, and that includes her miniature and all of her cards, or action cards, or talent cards, or relic cards. So a lot of variety there, and she's on the cover of the box and stuff. So
it probably wasn't a big surprise that she was going to be in the game.
But the reason, and this will go in details about why we chose to do daily unlocks. It was just literally just for fun. It wasn't like a marketing scheme or like that. It was more just like,
it's a personal preference. Like, that's all it is.
It's enjoyable.
Like that. And we'll get into that whole decision. And obviously, it wasn't the best for everybody. So
the other unlocks we just unlocked today, which we're recording on a Sunday. So if you checked your update on Sunday, you would have seen we got the first villain story added to the game, which includes the 4 story tokens as well. And
that's a cool addition to the game that we'll probably talk more about as we discuss the game in depth, the campaign. But it's an exciting way to change up the game. It doesn't require tons of extra rules, but it has new little effects and things like that to change the game up, give players a little bit more guidance on what decisions to, which choices to make when they're setting up their game. Because the Malice of Light Adventures was designed to be very modular, pick and mix and match and make your own little scenarios in the game. But these villain stories are like a fixed scenario that give you some story, some special rules. We're really excited about it. So.
And what we hinted at in the update, one thing that we kind of envision for the product line is, because a lot of people like to do fan content, which is great. People can go to Board Game Geek or whatever groups they're part of on social media and share custom content. It's a very cool way to get involved in games you like. And we wanted this game to have that feel, because the way the game is structured with each individual encounter, each minion group, each villain, they're so like encapsulated and modular that you can like reuse them in different ways. And a way to like really emphasize that is through this kind of like story mechanic. And it's really hinged on these 4 tokens that are added to the game, which seems kind of minor. They're just like 4 universal tokens, but they allow for a lot of cool effects without having to have a lot of rules overhead, because you just have a token out to represent, this minion's carrying a message for the villain. So you put the little scroll token on that minion's card, and that has a special effect associated to it. It's in the rule book. So
also, it's important to note too, for people who might not be familiar with mine and Brady's taste in narrative in games, there's not going to be a bunch of flavor text to read during this scenario. There's there's blurbs to set the stage, but because you can actually books available
as part of the pledge. You can get a book.
But it is important to note, though, these villain stories don't actually just retell things in the book. They're more like backstories,
because
behind the scenes type stories.
Yeah, like most novels, you don't follow along the villain's storyline. Sometimes you might get glimpses behind the scenes, but these villain stories are a way to kind of get some backstory, which is kind of mentioned sometimes in these books. Not all the time. Some of them are original little, anecdotes, but they're all pulled from the lore. So if you're reading the book, you're not going to be like replaying anything you've read in here. It's more like you're exploring something that's only mentioned in the books more in depth in the game. So it's kind of cool. Easter egg stuff.
Yeah. And then we have some more exciting reveals throughout the campaign. But obviously, I think that you've started to see the pattern of reveals. So like,
not when this launches though. This launches, we got a little wrench in the gear. So
we'll mix it up a little bit. But
I'm wondering if we should talk about it, or should we just like assume this is dropping before people see the update?
I would rather they just see it. Like,
so when this drops, make sure you watch your inboxes, because you'll see an update, which is a little different than the other previous updates we've had.
I mean, I think if you're listening to this podcast, the chances are you're probably following the campaign.
Yeah, so, hopefully. Yeah.
If not, go ahead and follow it. You can get our updates and stuff. Even if you're not backing it, you can just follow along. So yeah. We'll start off, just get the not necessarily boring stuff, but the more business stuff out of the way, where we kind of talk about what happened during launch and what things we're doing to adjust and all this stuff, and kind of give some context about decisions being made for this campaign, and maybe things that you might be interested in knowing. But the first off, we'll talk about the shipping rates, which hopefully by the time this podcast launches, maybe we'll have posted the new shipping rates.
If it's not available, it should be like within hours, I assume. So
it's being worked on as we're talking right now. So one of the big things when the campaign launched was this kind of shocking, was the shipping rates, especially for the EU region, which was much higher than it should be. We found. So it's the complicated thing with fulfillment companies. People who are probably familiar with this, if you've backed lots of campaigns, you've heard publishers talking about it. But you partner with the fulfillment company to get shipping rates, and those, it's not usually like, you don't typically just go, I'm going to go with the fulfillment company as the lowest rates possible, because there's lots of other factors to consider, and that's like how good they package things, customer service, how quick and reliable they are. There's all these factors. So we initially decided to partner with Quartermaster Logistics for this project, because we've been delivered. We've had projects delivered from them to us, projects we backed. When we worked at Blacklist, they used them to fulfill Alter Quest, I believe it was, pretty successfully and without many issues. And we also know people there. They have great service. So we chose to go with them. And their U.S. rates were pretty decent. I mean, they have some good rates, but the EU and other places, obviously way too high. So we also just got the new 2026 rates, which us not being logistic experts, assumed, okay, well, obviously there's increases every year, and maybe the EU is just really bad this year.
We went to other publishers to check to see if these were in line, but there's so many like different contextual things, and context matters. And so,
go on.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, like, so in our situation with our specific needs, they weren't in line, and obviously we're pivoting. So like, this is gonna be something that's resolved hopefully sooner rather than later. It's already a shame that it's like, we've had to wait this long, but at the same time, it's like we're coming up to mid campaign, so
it'll be worth it, because no matter what happens, even if this campaign ultimately doesn't fund, we can start again with all this in place right from the start, which is great. But to give you some context, is we were talking with Quartermaster about getting some better rates, and they're really good about contacting partners and getting all this stuff figured out. But we also were asking around for fulfillment partners. Typically partner with other fulfillment companies all around the world to get the best rates. So this is very common. So we actually got recommended from another publisher friend of ours, Back Office, which we announced on Friday. We met with them. Fantastic meeting. We love their service. We love what they offer. They fulfilled Earthborn Rangers, which is a game we worked on with Earthborn Games. And so we have really high confidence in them. But the good thing is that we also talked to them that we'd like to have them use Quartermaster as the U.S. fulfillment company. So that's being talked about as well, where we can still partner with QML for the U.S., but Back Office will handle partnering with everybody else throughout the global, all the global fulfillment companies available. So lots of things to consider, but we want to make sure people know that we're not just like, we're not looking into things, or we're not just taking the first number we see. There's lots of factors that go involved with it, and there's a lot of trade-offs to deciding who you want to work with and all this stuff. So all that being said, if the new shipping rates aren't posted yet, they will be soon, and we feel like it's a lesson learned, tough lesson for us, to do that in front of everybody. But again, we're not too proud to say, we messed up.
Yeah, we don't take pride in our logistics, like
Yeah,
like
we're not logistical experts.
Yeah, the reason people hire logistics firms is to not worry about this, because we're a 2-person operation. We specialize in very specific things, like creative things. So we need to find those partners who can help guide us, and that's what we're doing. And we appreciate everyone's comments, because that helped us get on this road that we're on right now. So appreciate it. And it may not be always like a pleasant conversation to have, because people are heated, they're excited, they want something done. We want it done too, but yeah, just want to extend our gratitude for people who are commenting and feeling passionate about getting this project into as many people's hands as possible, because that's the overall goal.
Especially constructively. If you're giving constructive feedback, great. And also, we didn't start this podcast off with saying thanks so much for any of you that are backing the project right now. We can't thank you enough.
I feel like I'm a broken record, because whenever I type the updates, I'm always like saying thank you, and like I don't want to annoy people, but like really it's hard to thank you enough for the support, because like it's so dependent upon the support, like getting an audience together that's excited about the same thing, of aligned vision. So we're glad to have you on board. We want more of you on board. We want to make sure everybody's got their needs met for this campaign. So yeah, just follow along if you can't do it yet. Once the shipping rates hit and you're good to go, share it with all your friends, spread the word. We'll get back on track and get this funded. And this is like a minor thing, because like a lot of people will want to talk about like, we won't talk about relaunching, because like you don't talk about defeat in the midst of the game and whatever. Like we don't care about that so much. Like
that's gonna be the last topic I think we're
talking about. It's mostly we just want to make sure everyone knows that we want to make this happen. Like this, we're not looking to overfund. We're not looking to blow past that funding goal or nickel and dime backers. We just want to make this game happen, and that funding goal is what that is. So
yeah, I mean that's another point I was going to make too. But before we get into that, I was going to talk about the other thing that people are kind of felt strongly about. Difference of opinion is the way we're doing the unlocks, the daily unlocks. We can't apologize enough if anything ever seemed like misleading in the marketing of this campaign, where we didn't show the miniatures for the minions in the game. We weren't trying to like hide those. Well, I mean we were, but we were hiding them because we wanted them to be a fun surprise to backers who were.
Yeah, it wasn't a bait and switch or something.
We wanted to make sure we showed off the game. This game is going to be really cool. It uses miniatures and stuff like that for the heroes and villains. And like we always wanted to do miniatures. Like we wanted to work with Tom really bad on this project. He's been a friend of ours for many years, and we love his sculpts. But this was our chance to finally work with him and have him do all the miniatures for the game.
Yeah, and we've kind of alluded to this before, but just to make it super clear, like I mean, I think a lot of times we talk about this online too. Like people will say whether or not games need miniatures, or like this game doesn't need miniatures. Like no game needs miniatures. You can play any game with anything you want, but
no game needs components more than like printed off white paper.
Yeah, it's all like any type of component added to a game is literally just to make it look better, feel better, add to immersion. So our vision for this game was with miniatures. The tokens are cool. I like the tokens because they have the art on there. They're shaped, differently, so you can tell them apart. But that doesn't compare to me to having like full colored plastic miniatures on the table. They just really, like it pumps up that toy value. It just reminds me of being a kid and getting like Hero Quest out and playing. So like that's what we want. That's our vision. So
yeah, I saw a comment about that too. Like that's another topic. You're like jumping topics, but that topic,
I do that.
I was going to be like the value of the game was another topic that people bring up, but like the daily reveals is kind of, I guess it leads into that, but that was kind of the plan for that structure. Was like we wanted to have a campaign that we would want as backers, and obviously we don't have the same preference as everybody. Everybody wants different things, and probably the majority of people have the same opinion of us as projects we'd like to back. But that's kind of where the plan came from. Was like, if I was backing a game, what would I want to see? And I like being a part of campaigns where you see something new every day. It's something cool. It's some cool update to come back and look at. So that's kind of what that was from. And we didn't want to have stretch goals for this campaign. We wanted to just set a funding goal of everything we wanted in the game. This is how much it would cost. This is how much the game would be. And then set that goal. And if we hit it, we can print it right away. And there's no like, can we afford it? Can we have months of development time to make these stretch goals that we didn't plan for and all this stuff? We didn't want to mess with that. We just wanted to have, this is how much it takes. This is how much it costs to make it. This is everything we want in the game. This is what it takes. Hopefully we can get this. So that's kind of where the structure of the campaign came from.
Yeah, and like I mean that goes into the whole with shipping rates, with production costs, and everything. It's like a lot of publishers out there will be going for, like, racing to the bottom, like getting the lowest possible costs, and just like trying to find the cheapest options. That's not what we do. Like, that's not our goal, is to provide like the most, like the cheapest discount option you can get. We want to just provide a quality product, good
premium. I would say premium. We want like high quality game.
Because we're not going with the cheapest manufacturer. We're going with a manufacturer who makes stuff that we like, stuff, the products that we are proven. We've played them ourselves, and
high quality components, good insert, like
we're paying more than like a traditional publisher might pay for our book run, because we have very specific things we want.
This is a collector's edition book. I mean, it's high quality.
So a lot of those options we chose specifically just because we want them. They're just things that we don't want to like compromise on just because you could find a cheaper option. So that's another reason of why, like, you might see the price different than other campaigns out there. And it's not to say we're inflating the costs, because we are being smart where we want to make it affordable for people, but we buy games too. We're game consumers, so we know what we will pay for games. I would pay this and more for this game, obviously. I mean, I'm biased, I know, but if I was shopping on Gamefound or Kickstarter and I saw a game that was $95 and I saw the contents and I saw the gameplay, I wouldn't hesitate. It would be like, that's worth it for me. But everyone's different in that regard, so we understand that.
Aside from the fact that manufacturing costs for games just continue to go up, prices don't necessarily go up with those, so the margins are slim and everything. But essentially, quoted out this game for what we wanted in the game, the components we wanted, the quality we wanted, saw what it costs, saw what the freight costs to get it to where it needs to go. You have to have a certain margin for retailers if you want to get to retail. That's what the game costs. So that's there's no reason for us to price something exorbitantly that we couldn't sell, because we want people to have this game. So that's kind of where the price point came from. And
another important part of that is because it's not like super discounted, because the MSRP has to be set at a certain point where if it goes to retail, there's that wholesale, was that what's called, the wholesale discount that retailers will buy for,
and it can range from 40 to 60%.
Yeah, so it can get nuts. So we want this to be a very viable product in after this campaign, after everyone gets their copies. We want to make sure this is available in retail, but also so we can support it, going forward and for years to come, without having to like do different versions to accommodate for the pricing. Because if we price it too low, then it wouldn't be able to be on the shelves in certain retailers.
And I also wanted to mention too, you mentioned this comment about not needing miniatures. I think I saw a comment, I don't know if it was on BGG or on the campaign, about so every unlock is just miniatures that have no gameplay impact, which hurts me because it has a substantial gameplay impact to me as a gamer. Like, if I'm playing a game and I have, like, this game, we've played it on Tabletop Simulator, we played it with the demo kit with tokens, we played it with the miniatures, and it's a substantially better experience playing with miniatures. And again, it's a taste thing, but it has gameplay impact for people. I know for a fact, because it does for me. But also the fact that we want to use colored plastic does affect the cost of the game. It makes it more expensive when you're shooting plastic injection molds and you have to block out certain parts of that mold for different colors and inject it multiple times depending on the color combinations. So it is make it more complicated, process and affects the price. But again, we've been asked before, it's like, when you consider like a standee version and all this stuff, and obviously if we can't make this game the way we want to make it, we'll figure out other options to do that. But what we're showing you is not what we think is the best thing that like anybody could ever come up with. This is just the game we want to make. This is our vision for the game, and we want this game to exist in its form. This is what we wanted everything to be in one box. You don't have to have a separate box for miniatures. I think you mentioned this before, where you backed a game and
I think it was a previous episode, the lost episode we did with release, but I was going into an anecdote about a game that I really like. It's called Abomination, and I got it off Gamefound like last year. Really cool games, like a tower defense game, but there was like a deluxe version where you get the game. It's got miniatures for the heroes, it's got like this cool fortified town center, but the monsters are all tokens. You can get the monster upgrade box, which I did because I had to have the miniatures because they were just cool looking. But you have to set the game up. It's in this nice box with all this cool insert for all the stuff. But if you want to have those miniatures, you got to break that box out individually and get all those miniatures out and then put it back away. So there's this whole extra step, and that sounds kind of maybe petty, but it's like that. It comes down to when you have all those games on your shelf, what's the easiest one to get out and play and get that thematic immersion. We want to have one box, with, you open it up, you take out those trays and everything's there to set up. That was the goal. So like if we did a different version where we offered, not a lesser version, but like a cheaper option for standees or tokens, anybody who wants the miniature side of things would have to go through that process that would kind of take away from the experience. So we wanted to try to find the most happy medium possible. And this, people could still have the tokens. And honestly, like the cost is not that significantly different with those miniatures.
Well,
it's like,
the unit per, like I was going to say, like if we added a separate version, it would actually increase the production cost because we would have to still pay for those molds for this other SKU. And then, yes, we'd be able to offer a slightly cheaper version of the box, but the overall cost of the project would be even more to accompany that. And, fulfillment's more complicated and all that stuff. So we were trying to keep this first project, especially since this is our first as a company, fulfilling it as simple as possible. And so we have 2 products. You can either get either of them or both of them together, simple combinations, and get this fulfilled as quickly as possible. That's our vision for this game. So that's what our answer for that is like, it's not out of the question, but it's not what we want. We want this game as this format. And if there's not enough people that want it in this format, we have to come to terms with that, obviously.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Like, because I think we've said it before in the comments and in updates. Like, regardless of how we make this game, it's going to get made. Like, we're gonna make this game happen. This project's not going to be shelved if we can't fund this particular version of it. Like, this is our vision. Ideally, we can make it happen, and we'll fight tooth and nail to get it funded with all of your support, all of your awesome support. But if things change and the market's wanting something different, we'll reconfigure it because it's an amazing design. We're stoked to have it out there, and we just want to get it out, not because we want to rush through this and jump to the next project. We want to get this out because we want to develop more. We want to make more content for it. We want to have a big long lifespan for this game, which is why it's priced as it is, so it can survive on the shelves.
Yeah, I think there was 3 big factors of like why, like we people have been talking on the campaign, like, why don't you just cancel this and relaunch it with the these fixes? And that's still an option. But as a new publisher, with like, we've already invested so much money into this project, into this game, and into marketing the campaign
on this timeline.
Yes, on this timeline. So like, if we canceled it, if it doesn't fund, that's lost money, and that's personal funds for us. We don't have big stockpile of cash to use. We saved up money. We worked on this, in our free time, and this is just a passion project for us. So we're gonna keep this running as long as the whole campaign. If it doesn't fund, we'll reassess and we'll go from there. But we don't have any interest in canceling. We've been a part of Kickstarters in the past where the project it hit the funding goal, this arbitrary funding goal, but it didn't make what the publisher wanted, so they had to cancel it, it feels weird canceling a funded project. If this funds, even if it just stops and it's exactly at funding, we're good to go. We set this goal.
Pop the cork. Yeah. That's a champagne time.
We set this goal for this campaign where if it hits it, bam, it's a success and we're good to go. We're ready to print this thing. We don't need to, we got to make more. If we do, great. Like, the more people we get to back this game, the better.
Yeah, but we can make improvements with that money. We can plan more effectively for the next campaign, all kinds of stuff. So the main thing being is I mean, I don't know about you, but I cannot stand, like you mentioned it before, but like personally, just as a consumer, as somebody who watches games, not just as a creator, I just hate seeing people hit a funding goal and be like, we're gonna reassess. It's not going right. It's like,
well, I think all backers hate that.
Yeah, so we don't want to be part of that. So,
but yeah, the other aspect is like we have lots of plans for this company. Like I said, we're doing this. We have full-time jobs, we have hobbies, we have busy lives. We're doing this when we can in our free time. We devote as much time as we can to it, and as much of our free money that we can, disposable income we have available, investing into the project. But if it doesn't fund, it's obviously going to set back a lot of our other plans, which would be a bummer. If it doesn't fund, like Brady said, we're not going to abandon it. We're going to keep figuring out the best way to move forward with it. But if it does fund, it means not only can we get this out the door and delivered as quick as possible, we can also start working on the next thing. And we have lots of exciting projects. And I think I mentioned this before, where this campaign is for this game, obviously, but it also kind of will set the stage for what Twin Tail Studios can do in the future. It's kind of like the launch pad of the company. So that's why we really hope it does fund. But if it doesn't, people shouldn't worry that this game, like, if you're excited about this game and you're worried it won't fund, don't worry. We'll figure out a way to fund it.
Yes.
So we'll figure out a way to make it.
Yeah, I don't foresee. First off, I think this is going to fund. I'll say that right now. Like I'm pretty confident the things are gonna, once the shipping rates get nailed down, we'll get some energy back in. Everyone's gonna be excited. So I'm pretty sure we'll hit that funding goal sooner rather than later. And like I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned this on this episode. I don't think I did, but I'm actually going to an author con, which was in the update on Saturday. I was give some information. I'm going to the Scares That Care author con 6, I believe. It's in Williamsburg, Virginia. It's pretty big. I went to the one previously. I think it was in 2024, maybe whenever the first Relic Myers came out, which was it was 2024 because that was 2025. Anyway,
you write too many books.
Yeah, so. I got some painted miniatures for the game from PJ Paints Minis on Instagram. You've probably seen me posting. If you follow me on Instagram or Twin Tail Studios, you've probably seen his work because he's constantly posting his updates as stories on there, and he does great work. But he sent me the actual painted miniatures. I'm going to take those with me to the AuthorCon, so I'm hoping to get some eyes on the campaign, maybe from outside of the tabletop industry, just some book crowd, because I can showcase the box books, the game, and I usually have a pretty eye-catching table. Like a lot of authors will go out and they'll have like their little sign on their table and then a stack of books, but I bring a bunch of garbage, so I should be able to draw some eyes.
I feel like we are missing out on that book crowd on Gamefound, because there's a pretty big population of like book backers on Kickstarter where they lots of books get backed or whatever. But
and I understand the confusion, because some people will come on here on Gamefound, see this next to this, and they assume this is required to play the game. They assume the books are like a gameplay thing, and I get that. Like, I think we kind of understood that going in, that could be a hurdle, but we like we usually do, we just, when we have our mindset on something, we just keep powering through, and we want to make sure we hammer things home. But I think it'll get there, like the messaging will get across, but that is probably a hindrance, because if you go up on Kickstarter, there's a lot of like organic discoverability through the tagging system and everything, and it's more than just tabletop games, which could be hurtful for people who are just doing a tabletop game. That might be why they would opt to go to Gamefound. I like Gamefound's platform. I like the UI and everything, so that's kind of what drew us there in the first place. But yeah, it could be a situation where we could have more success on Kickstarter, which is something we could talk about. If things go differently. Well, and
it's tough, because I do like I love Gamefound's platform. It's just, since we have books, it's not necessarily all games, so it's game with some other stuff. But I feel like that audience is not as big as it could be. And that's the only thing, the book side of things. But all that being said, there was one other thing I wanted to mention about the project that was a kind of a point of contention early on, was the fact that we didn't have stretch pay enabled. Now this is my fault, obviously, because I know people have asked about it before, but we were planning this project to be really quick turnaround, where the crowdfunding campaign would end. We'd go into Pledge Manager, get the final quantities we needed. Right when Pledge Manager ended, bam, we would hit the print button at the factory. And that didn't leave a lot of time for like months and months of stretch pay, which I just assumed people want that stretched out like over 6 months or something.
Yeah, that's what usually people want to have, the lowest price possible per month.
And so I thought that we could either do a couple months, and then if we did a couple months stretch or a few months stretch pay, but then not offer it in the Pledge Manager, because that would delay things even more. People might say that's unfair, and like, oh, you offered that in the campaign, but why not the Pledge Manager? So I was just not sure that we wanted to open that door. And I also thought that since we were keeping the game under $100, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. Obviously, I was wrong. Like, people want stretch pay, and
because
I just assumed if people have credit cards, whatever, they have their own way to finance things. But I was wrong,
because that factor. I mean, you don't think.
Before you finish, let me finish my thought, because I don't want to forget. Is that didn't affect that the way that we offer stretch pay did not affect our timeline. I think somebody commented saying this doesn't seem right, because how are you still planning on delivering? Because we had that buffer of when we pay the factor and all that stuff, but I didn't think that people wanted that during the campaign for that amount of months or whatever. I didn't think it was desired. So like I said, I was wrong, but it's not going to affect our timeline.
Yeah, and luckily it was an easy fix. So it's a win-win. So
that's thanks to Gamefound. They make it super easy, where you just hit a button and say, let's turn this on. Let's set the payments you want, like the payment of the number of months you want to offer and all this stuff. It's very easy to do in the back end, which is nice. So.
Just a case of mixed expectations, because they're like the reason people like stretch pay, because this is something we don't have a lot of experience with, because when we back games, we kind of prefer to pay them off in full. You know, we don't back a ton of games, but there are people who back a lot of projects, and that stretch pay is very handy because they can pretty much like pay what they would back a normal game, but back like, you know, 4 or 5 games because of stretch pay. So it's something we just didn't anticipate the vast need for and the vast like preference for. But hey, now we know, and now it's available. So
yes, and I also apologize. There was somebody in our Discord that asked for it a few like weeks ago or whatever, and you know, I acknowledge that it was desired. It's not like I'm ignoring you or anything. I apologize for if it came off that way. I just didn't think there was enough demand for it to warrant the I don't know, like disagreements between like offering it during the campaign but not during the pledge manager.
Yeah, just
kind of some kind of drama between that. Like I didn't want to open the door to that. So
yeah, there's always like I like consistency. So like there that like this in what do you call that? Non-continuity word.
Inconsistent?
Yeah, inconsistency, not continuity. Words are, that's why I write, because I have time to think about what I'm writing before I actually say it.
Yeah, so we haven't decided yet, but it's likely that people that like come to the campaign late during the pledge manager and they want to back the game for the first time in the pledge manager, there might not be stretch pay available in the pledge manager because it might affect the timeline depending on how much we fund or whatever, if we fund. But yes, during the campaign, it's now offered. We apologize it wasn't there right off the bat, and it wasn't like a seat of the pants, you know, like, oh, we better turn on. We thought about it, we discussed it. It was definitely a consideration, but I made the decision and I made the wrong decision, and that happens sometimes. So
luckily they're easy to fix.
Yeah.
So that's all the boring behind the scenes, like taking a peek behind the curtains.
I think so. I did want to make one comment though about some. I saw a comment that I don't want to really highlight, but it was about complaining about books, like, you know, oh, you know, you're writing books and you're shoving books down people's throats. I want people to understand where this company came from. Last year, was it last year when we did joint operations?
Well, we started the year before.
It's been 2 years. Oh my God. A couple years ago, I got laid off from my job. I was working as a software engineer at a startup, and I got laid off, and it was really depressing because I'd never been unemployed for so long. I was like unemployed for a few months, and I was applying for jobs constantly and just not getting anywhere because the job market sucked for a while. But we started a podcast called Joint Operations just to talk about Kill Team, because we were playing Kill Team and they had some co-op rules, and Brady was writing books while I was working at a startup. He worked at a proposal writer, and he was writing books in his free time, self-publishing, learning all those things. While he was doing that, I was trying to figure out job stuff. We were playing games, started a podcast to talk about it. But during that time, we decided to write a book together. We wrote Ransom Creek Remains, which is like a buddy cop. We were watching True Detective at the time, and it kind of inspired us with the story, and it kind of set it in like the Relic Myers like time period.
You forgot the most important part is I broke my leg, and I was stuck on the couch.
Was that when you were writing that?
That's why I was, well, I mean, I think I wrote it when I was up, but yeah, I watched True Detective that whole time I was on the couch.
That probably led to it. But anyway, us working on that book together got us back in the, you know, I went to some shows with Brady, like we went to Gen Con together, and that got us back into this board game, you know, environment again. And we were like, you know, we were playing Raven's Watch on Xbox constantly, and we like, let's make a board game like this, because we just wanted it, you know, it didn't exist. And that's pretty much what led to this project, and us forming a company was because of Brady's books. Like that, it's a huge part of this company, and I want people to understand that it's not like I don't know.
It's not like a way to, because like I think there was. And like we don't want to give you know, a spotlight on every negative comment we get. Like it's more just like if somebody sees this, you know, I feel like maybe we could just address it just to make it less of an issue for anybody, but it may not be, because people will always have their own hangups. But like this game does not exist as a vehicle just to sell these books. Like, yeah, it'd be great if they both sold, because that can support the company, because these are all under the company's umbrella. This is not like my own personal, like I'm not even getting money from this right now. All of my sales for the books are just going to the Twin Tail Studios, you know, like and supply, because we want to be able to do more projects.
And we're trying to build up our own IPs that we can own, and we can make games in these settings that we own,
and not have like can't cancel it.
Like I love Warhammer, but Warhammer Quest the Adventure card game died because the license went away. Like Games Workshop stopped having a license at FFG and no expansions. It's like it's happened before where just licenses ruin things. So, I mean, licenses are exciting because there are lots of like licenses I like. Like I said, Warhammer, I love it. But when we control this, we control the setting, we control the game availability, all that stuff. There's so many things about it that I wanted to make clear that the whole reason that the Sadler brothers are making games again is because of Brady's books. Like his books inspired us to get back into the creative thing, and it's like people need to understand that it's a big deal, and it's not like an ego trip or like that about like trying to sell books. It's just we're trying to make a cool setting, cool products, and fun games.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
I think there's much better ways to inflate one's ego than spending a bunch of time alone writing books. like it's not the most glamorous way to.
And I apologize for even bringing it up because I don't want to, like I said, shine light on people that are just out to like make people feel bad. But
no, I give people the benefit of the doubt, because if somebody is confused by the wording of something or the presentation, because like perception is so relative to whoever is experiencing it. So like I can't say if how I'm presenting something is the right way, or if somebody's gonna take it the wrong way. Like you can just do the best you can and hope for the best.
I just find it funny when anybody accuses Brady of having an ego, because he is the most self-conscious loser that I know. Like he just complains about how nobody likes him all the time. So like maybe it's an overcompensation where he puts out there's
an insecurity thing probably that can be misconstrued as like like trying to put like all it comes down to is, I think I explained it in the comment that I replied to, but it's like I made a choice. I could spend a few years polishing one manuscript and shop it around and find the right literary agent that's going to represent me to how I want to be represented, and find a publisher who has the same alignment with what I think the market wants from a book, all this stuff. Or I could just like release my own books, because I had a lot of ideas for books and I like releasing them. Like when we stopped making games consistently, I needed an outlet. I need to like release things, and not just like make a prototype at home and shelf it, or like write a manuscript and shelf it. Like I need to release stuff. I just like putting a final product together. I like getting cover art. I like all those things involved. I love the whole publishing side of things. So I needed to do it. I needed to publish books, and I just like writing books. I love writing. I have a lot of stories I want to tell. So it's a natural thing, and I think that's like Adam said. It's like kind of what got us back in that. Man, we miss making games. We miss all these things that go into making games.
Because I'll be honest, like, we're not super thin-skinned or stuff like that, but like we've been exposed to quite a bit of negativity online, especially from our our experience at Blacklist. But like it is one of the reasons, like what drove me away from wanting to do games. It's like that experience at Blacklist Games, working for a publisher that did things like that. And I mean, I just honestly saw this news from our buddy who worked at Intrepid Studios, where the CEO of that company was.
Go look that up if
you don't know this thing, like Ashes of Creation, like all this was like bringing up PTSD about what happened to me with us at Blacklist. Like people are going after their employees and like trying to accuse them of doing things wrong, whatever. It's like when they had no idea what was going on with the finances of the company. It sucked. And I'll be honest that like sometimes I can only take so much negativity where I have to take a break and let Brady talk some comments or whatever, where I just maybe, and again, sometimes I take things the wrong way because it's the internet and you can't really read tone all the time when people are leaving comments. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I don't know, it was bugging me, and I just want to be honest about it. So all that being said, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover about what's been going on with the project, and kind of clearing the air about things.
Yeah. Hopefully, like most of what we talk about for the remainder of the campaign is less about like lessons learned, because we're still we're in the thick of it right now. So we want to focus on getting to the funding goal. We want to focus on the fact that right now, when you're listening to this, we should be like really close to putting up those new shipping rates, which, we realize may not be the answer, may not be like the end all be all. We still got to fight.
There are some people that just probably just don't want this game. That's fine. I think I saw some comment about like talking about the value of the game. Like this looks like a certain priced game or whatever, which seems strange to me. Like I said, this game was not designed to be any price point. This game was designed to be a fun game, and we turned this fun game into a nice product, and that's kind of
I mean, it is kind of like you said. It's kind of like it's a premium product. It's not meant to be like a, we're not aiming for like a Target shelf or something. This is going to be a hobby level game. We want to have really nice components. We want to have those colored miniatures,
replayable.
I think it might be worth saying too. It's like some people like view a lot of miniatures. We don't like a ton of miniatures, like like Zombicide.
I was going to say I specifically I really dislike games like that where you just take a handful of miniatures to put on a board and then they get knocked off and like they're meaningless. This is not what that is. Like every miniature in this game is a character.
Yeah, and I think like we made a conscious choice too, because if you've played any of our other games, like any MDS games, Street Masters, Brook City, a lot of those games have like 5 sculpts of each miniature type, and each one is only 3 sculpts. So like every group is 6 miniatures, 3 sculpts of one figure, 3 sculpts of another. So it's reduced in that way, which also allows for modularity, because you take 2 of those groups, so you have 4 different minion figures essentially to make up your group, and it's a lot of options, a lot of replayability. It's crammed a lot of value in that box.
That's the cool thing too, is we're bad salesmen with our games, because there's a lot of things that come out in the gameplay that I don't feel like we don't necessarily want to hold people's hands. Like, we're guilty of, like, if we put up this Kickstarter, we have multiple gameplay videos like on YouTube of content creators who actually film very well and explain the game and do a much better job than we could. We also put up the rule book, but it's not enough. Like, I know people want to not have to try to see how your game plays, so we need to spell that out more in our game. And we understand that we're not the best at marketing ourselves, and we need to get better at it. But one of the cool things about this game is that the minions, every game you will pick 2 different minion groups, like goblins and undead, mix them together. And each minion group has 2 different types of minions arranged in a melee. And I think you mentioned this in an update, how they kind of work together in different ways to kind of have a synergy. But then you mix those together, and you have the encounter has this different strategy you got to work around, where, this undead witch is sucking away our focus, and then these goblin archers are just ganging up on the people who have the most minions. So you kind of have to work around that strategy. But then you change out the zombies or the undead, and you throw in the shrouded, and all of a sudden,
those gnolls.
All of a sudden the game's different. And that's just going to expand even more in the future, where we release expansions where you take a new minion type and add it to an encounter, and it changes up the game completely. So that's something that it's hard for us to I guess we're not very good at explaining that.
No, it takes a different mind, because like that's the one problem with hearing it from the horse's mouth, is because there's so many things that we have established as already understood. We talk to a lot of playtesters who have a very deep understanding of the game, so a lot of our communications might be kind of like slanted in that way, which that's just something we got to learn from and get better at. Because while we've done marketing in the past, I come from a marketing background. Marketing your own stuff is much different. It's the same way you don't self-edit yourself sometimes, because like if you write something, self-editing that is going to be kind of a redundant situation where you're not going to catch things, because you're falling back into familiarities, and you're just
assuming what things mean. Yep. Like I said this or whatever. Yeah.
But before we dive into listener questions, I had a couple other updates I wanted to mention.
You mentioned playtesters. I just wanted to shout out, when we're talking about the gameplay, that we can't even put into words how invaluable our playtesters have been, but how much they enjoy playing it. Like they playtest this game so many times, and they still have fun with it. It's not just like, it's not work. It's like, it's just they want to play, and it's awesome. It says so much about the game where you actually want to playtest it, because playtesting, it's not always fun.
Yeah, because we've had games where like we post a new piece of content, like, here's a new stage, and you almost get the sense of like, oh god, okay, I'll get started on this. But now with this game, we post a new encounter, and it's like, oh sweet, it's like Christmas, people are so excited to play it, and it's like, that just feels great.
We hardly even get it. Brady and I hardly even get a chance to playtest things, because they beat us to it.
Yeah. Which we're just busy like doing the development stuff, because we have so many notes to go through, and it's been a great, and like that's probably why maybe sometimes we'll seem a little like maybe short-sighted with like the expectations of this game, because in our minds it's like, this game is amazing, and so
it is the best game we've ever designed. I mean, people who like our games, I think someone on the campaign was trying to ask me to sell it to him. I was like, it's how's this different than Warhammer Quest? I mean, it's better. It's a better game. Like, he said it's not good enough to say that, but I mean, that's all I can say is it's a better game. It's just like, if you like that, I think you like this more because it's better.
But we do have some listener questions. But before we dive into those, I was going to mention it might be kind of early, but we did confirm that we're going to be at Gen Con. We'll be present at the author table in the Authors Avenue.
This big of a table?
It's a little bigger, but if this goes well, we might have some products there, so we'll see.
We'll definitely bring the demo kit, even if whatever happens with
these awesome painted miniatures. But yeah, we'll be there. We'll have some books to sell. And somebody asked about whether or not these books for the Gamefound come signed. I'm not signing these because they will be at the fulfillment warehouses, and they're going to be shrink wrapped from the printer. So I don't want to tear everybody's to open and sign them. But I'm more than happy if you're ever at a convention, bring your books. I'll sign whatever you want.
Also, I'm one of those people where I would never assume somebody wants something
signed. I never want to take that because, personally, I don't get a lot of things signed, but I do understand that people love their books signed. I go to book signings all the time, so I'm used to it. But
I still remember, I don't want to call anybody out, but I still remember at Gen Con, I was in line to buy I think it was a Starfinder book, and there was a developer there going down the line saying, "You want me to sign that? Do you want me to sign?" It's like, "No, I don't want you to sign my book. It costs $100." I don't know who you are. Anyway,
we have listener questions today from probably new listeners, right?
Yes, if you are listening to this podcast and you're not part of our Discord, I would be surprised. But we do have listener questions that we take.
You meant to say go join our Discord, because we have a channel dedicated to our podcast listener questions. So go submit your questions there, especially during this campaign. I know there's a comment section people use a lot, and we try to stay active in there, but you can't really get really granular in there because it's a lot to read. So if you want specific things to talk through, post them in the Discord, because we'll happily just spend a podcast episode talking about them.
So Jer asks, if you had the possibility, would you revisit Walking Dead: No Sanctuary, and how would you change it? It is one of my favorites from your designs. That's a great question. Thanks, Jared.
That's cool to hear, because that's one game that doesn't get a lot of mentions. But I remember when that came out, I was super. I don't know, I was kind of impressed with the design, because when we were working on it, we kind of got stuck because it was an early design of ours. So
it's kind of funny too, because I think one of the most brilliant parts of that design was one of the last things that came together was the leader trust mechanic, where in the game, it's been a while, so if I get this wrong, I apologize. We haven't played this game in years, but there's a leader in the game, and he sets the approach. There's cautious, regular, and aggressive, reckless, or whatever.
Reckless, yeah.
And they're different colors of the cards, but you set the approach to play an action card, and then everybody else around the table places their action as well.
Has to follow suit.
If he doesn't follow suit or follow the leader, it stresses the leader out. And if the leader gets too stressed out, he has to pass the leadership to somebody else. And that mechanic.
You forget the most important part is you only get your ability if you're leader, right? The leader ability you have, your tokens, were only if you're the leader. That's an important part.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of things I'm going to forget about this game.
Well, because we had this whole mechanic where when you're playing single player or less players, you could have allies, and allies had this whole thing where they depending on what you played, it determined what they did. So it was even more important that you played the card that not only you wanted to do, but also would trigger the right effect for your allies. But then also if you're not leader, then you wouldn't get your bonuses essentially.
And I think that if we did revisit that design, obviously it would be our own IP of if we did a zombie survival thing or whatever, but I think if we did a game like that, it would probably be focused mainly on that mechanic and strip away a lot of the other stuff, because that game,
a lot of resources in that game.
That game had too much in it, and it needed to be streamlined. It didn't get enough time in the oven to really get cooking.
The main problem with that game is when we came off of that game right after doing Warhammer Quest, and Warhammer Quest had such a stronger development cycle in the regards, because the publisher had this whole development team, but when we worked with Cryptozoic, we weren't aware they didn't really have a development team. So when we handed that off, it was more they had whoever was available to kind of just finish it off. So I don't think it got enough time in the oven.
We were pretty surprised, because we saw some things in the final design, in the graphic design, that was literally just clip. We had our prototypes was the Google clip arts of check marks and stuff like that, and some of that stuff was in the final design, prettied up. But it's I thought you guys were gonna go change this around, get some cool iconography and stuff.
We're used to FFG's work cycle, but that's another thing too, is I think if we were to do something like that, the production would be a huge thing, because I detested those sheets.
We'd also not have that tiny little morale token.
Yeah.
But we'd love to do something like that in the future. And I guess the short answer would be streamlining it and focusing in on that trust mechanic.
Eliminating some of the excess resources.
Edward asks, Will add-ons be offered for new Hour of Need content? I'll just say easily no.
Not in this campaign,
Everything you see on the campaign is what's available. We're not going to try to add any more stuff to have extra add-ons and things like that. Those of you who might not know, Brady and I, Twin Tail Studios, purchased the rights to Hour of Need and Brook City last year. So we own those, but we haven't touched them yet. So like there's nothing to show yet, but we own those, and they're in the catalog of things we'd love to address if this is successful. So
yeah, I think loosely, if this funds, our main focus is going to be Relic Myers. If we need to like reassess and shift the timeline, we'll relaunch this and then do something with like either Brook City or Hour of Need, I think, in the meantime, because I want to stick to doing a Halloween Relic Myers whenever we do Relic Myers. I want it to be on Halloween because I am wanting to hit that spooky season.
So Cthulhu Stole Christmas has a couple questions. Would you like to discuss what kind of changes you made to the game after the review copies were sent out?
Yeah, two major ones for sure. First off, when we printed those demo kits, the game was still obviously in development, but we had to get something out to people just to kind of talk about the game, and we felt like we had a good understanding of like the vertical slice, quote unquote, of the game, just the experience. That's why the content we sent, which was kind of like the most, I mean, those are the first pieces of content we designed for this game, those encounters.
They were the simplest, most basic.
So while we say that like none of the content is locked behind difficulty levels, there is some complexity levels just from like a UI standpoint. But like from difficulty, we're trying to keep those more in line because we didn't like how a lot of our old designs would have certain pieces of content locked behind difficulty levels. We're like, oh, I want to fight this boss, but he's really hard. We want it to be like, I want to fight this boss, and we'll just adjust the difficulty for that boss. So we have that in this game. But
we do have a reveal coming up toward the end of the campaign that is going to be an exciting way to adjust that difficulty.
Yeah, so stay tuned on that. So the difficulty obviously has been adjusted. I think one of the main things that got mentioned about the demo kits was the final turn of the encounter, which is clearly that's one thing we've already fixed. That was a simple thing of making sure that minion spawns kept the pressure on, because early on when the minions were only spawned from those icons, we did see that, and even before those videos went up, we were fixing this thing because we wanted to make sure there was a consistent pressure regardless of when those, like, because you could like have a bad shuffle, those icons wouldn't trigger. So there's a lot of effects now on the event effects that say, if one hero doesn't have two minions, then draw a minion, stuff like that. So there's like ways to keep the pressure on, even what's kind of the tail end of the encounter. The other thing too is the big one, which unfortunately didn't make it into the demo kit, but now it's in there, and our playtesters would love it. So the villain, when they scheme, there's those scheme tokens on the map. There's 3 schemes, different colors, and they correspond to different cards for each encounter. And then in the finale, they correspond to the villain schemes, which are like their main schemes. Those things now have 2 sides. Well, they always had 2 sides, but we didn't use them. They were planned for an expansion, but now they're in the core system where when a villain enters an area with a scheme token, that flips to active. So it's going to be the colored side. Otherwise, when it's inactive, that particular scheme won't trigger. But whenever that token's face up, whenever you draw that scheme icon, it's going to trigger that scheme event because the scheme's been turned on, essentially. The only way to turn that off is by defeating the villain. When you go defeat the villain, before it didn't do anything, it just kind of bought you some time, but now you defeat a villain, you flip over a scheme token back face down and turn that scheme off. So it adds a lot more dynamic.
Yes, it makes the villain more dynamic, or it makes the schemes more dynamic, but it also makes it so it gives you more of an incentive to punch the villain in the face during Act 1 and 2. Before, you could do it, but it wasn't really that impactful. Now it's pretty impactful. Yeah. So you can not just buy yourself a turn of no bad things happening, but you also set the villain back more, which is cool.
Yeah, and also specify, because we've revealed the first villain story, Fenrir's story, that's something that we had saved for like thematic things, like the villain stories where defeating the villain was important, regardless if you're in encounter 1, 2. Because in 3 you have to, the finale you have to defeat the villain, but in 1 and 2 you don't have to. But the story introduced that where you'd have to defeat the villain, like you couldn't do certain things while the villain was on the board. So we had that planned for that. But now this new edition makes that still relevant, obviously, but also adds that whole other thing where like now it's still useful even if you're not playing a story. So it improved everything across the board, just that one little fix. So we're very proud of that one, and I think that really relieved a lot of the kind of like, I guess you would say, concerns about the first 2 acts, because that's where the pressure kind of matters, because you have to keep that pressure on up until the last event card, and I think it really did the trick.
So one more question from Cthulhu Stole Christmas. As I've understood it, you'd like to expand Malice of Light Adventures in the future. When the campaign succeeds, what would be your ultimate dream expansions if you didn't have to think about budget, logistics, etc.? Small or modular, standalone big box, focus on heroes, enemies, bosses. I have an idea. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, aside from what you just said, the obviously we want to do expansions to just add more modular elements, because you got plenty of characters to choose from in the book series, so more villains, more minions, more heroes. I think the one thing I would want to do is having an external thing, like an external progression system. So like if you play a lot of roguelikes like Hades or
Heroes of Hammerwatch 2.
Heroes of Hammerwatch 2, Children of Morta, you have something that you're like building up outside of the main gameplay loop. So the roguelike gameplay loop is this game. We want to maintain that without changing too much. But when you play that game, you come back with whatever resources you've got and you can apply them to this other thing. So like whether or not you have the heroes rebuilding a keep, starting a town, defending something, like I like the idea of having something you're building up and it's giving you reasons to go on different runs. And like when you're in the runs, you can just change out those discovery tokens to be like resources and stuff. So you can have this like kind of level of progression, but at the same time not take away from the gameplay loop, because it still should be the same gameplay experience. You're going out, you're getting upgrades. And
what I like about that too is that the external threat would be outside of the game as well, so there would be no reason, like I would want to avoid having to scale up the hero power in each game. So like let's say for example this campaign is about you have this town that's under assault by monsters every week or something, and so you have to go and get supplies to reinforce, and you have like see if you survive this wave, and you just keep doing that to try to build up your town, and like all that stuff's external. So the roguelike game is the same, it's the same scale every time.
That's what I liked about, I mean, the popularity of games like Pandemic Legacy and all these other like legacy style games. They really hinge on highlighting what's good about the gameplay loop without taking away from that, but just adding in layers on top of it, and like externally, like before or after the game, like you're updating whatever the status is. And like I imagine having a little region map, like almost like a Euro game where you have your territory control, and then like you just update those things. They have like inset, dual layer boards where you just put tokens in to track the status of whatever it is, and then you go do your game and update that. So it's like, it's more just like an additional thing, like a kind of a mini game, and that game could have all new encounters too, like kind of maybe more quote unquote generic encounters where it's like a resource run or like scavenging a bunch of fallen soldiers or something. So lots of opportunities for just digging more into the theme, into the lore, into the books, and just leaning more into the roguelike elements of the inspiration behind this game.
For me, I think it'd be really cool. I mentioned this before in a previous podcast, but I think it'd be really cool to have like a dungeon crawl expansion where it would almost probably be the size of the core game, because it would be like a big board, like a Hero Quest board or something,
like an Ultra Quest board, and the
entire game takes place on one board. So you just like you crawl into this dungeon, and there's like maybe like 3 tiers to the dungeon, where I think Descent First Edition did this, where the dungeon was broken up into like the copper, the silver, and the gold section of the dungeon. So the chests would be, this is a copper chest, this is a silver chest, this is a gold chest, and you'd get better stuff in those, as the dungeon. But basically breaking this down into the acts of like the first part of the dungeon, the second part of the dungeon is Act 2, and then the finale is where you fight the villain. And then like the discovery tokens could still, get upgrades, but it could also be things like, oh, here's the key we needed to get to the next part of the dungeon. I think that'd be really cool. I think it'd be very easy to do. Not easy. It would be a smooth transition into that style of
reasonable
game. Yeah, but it'd be kind of cool to take this gameplay and put it into a one big board. Like if people who like Ultra Quest, it could be something like that. Like it could be our way to harken back to Ultra Quest with this game using the same system of this game, which would be really way cooler.
Yeah, I think. Needless to say, whatever we do is not going to be like adding alternate rules or like a bunch of exceptions. Basically, it's going to be maintaining the elegance and beauty of this gameplay loop, but just adding more options that really highlight like why that's so strong and why that's so addicting, and keeping what what's good about this game without taking away too much. So
I think you mentioned it too. Like the standard adventure pack expansion plan we had would be like a new villain, a new encounter, a new hero, a new group of minions, and that all that stuff would be in a nice little box because the map tiles are double sided, so you could have an encounter on one side, the villain layer on the other. It's almost like that product kind of develops itself. So
we definitely just want to keep doing more modular content for sure, because this is what we view as our new, like we used to kind of like dream about like some kind of like universal MDS system or whatever, but I really want this to be kind of our evergreen for Twin Tail Studios. This is our system. We might do variants of it, but like this is going to set the standard for this particular product line.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. We covered the campaign and listener questions. A little bit of not much complaining, but
yeah. We try to keep things balanced, where we don't want to ignore the negatives, but we don't want to spend too much time just dwelling on that, because like we got energy to maintain. We got to like make sure people are excited about this campaign as excited as we are. So
it is kind of it's sometimes it's challenging though. Like I remember that first night when we launched. There's a lot of like things we're doing wrong, and so I honestly didn't sleep at all that night. I was just like laying there, having a crisis of identity, where we spent all this time making this game, but nobody wants it.
But we know for sure that we got we got 30% funded, and it's like if we had one of these kind of illusionary funding goals, we'd be funded by now and on the stretch goals. So it
is funny. I see these other projects with these like multiple box games, and their funding goals like 20,000. It's like that wouldn't even cover the mold costs for this game. So trying to be realistic about it, and can't thank you guys enough for those of you who've backed, and if you're on the fence waiting for the shipping rates updates, hopefully those excite you. Hopefully they're up, or they'll be up soon, and you can join us on this project and get this thing funded. So
also join us in the Discord. Link is going to be in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put it in the description. Just go to twintailstudios.com. You'll find the link. Go to Gamefound, back the project, or follow it at least, and share it. Spread the word, and back some of the books.
Just get the bundle. The bundle gets you everything.
That's the books and the game. Yeah, get them all.
He keeps thinking about who's like how many people are backing just the books. So let's look at the bundle, because that's the most important.
Well, it's like it's different because this is a different offering, so I gotta be cognizant of that. So thanks for joining us. We'll hopefully be back, maybe not next week, but the week after. Definitely another episode before the game campaign ends, just to keep the pressure on. But yeah, we'll also be in the comments too, so just look for us there. So
all right, see you next time. Thanks.